All right, let's dive right into a really powerful idea for thinking clearly. It's one of those things that sounds so simple on the surface, but once you get it, you start seeing it everywhere, in basically every decision you make.
So this phrase, the map is not the territory, it comes from a Polish-American philosopher named Alfred Korzybski, way back in the 1930s. And his whole point was that we humans make one of the biggest mistakes in our thinking when we confuse our idea of something with the thing itself.
And this just nails the basic idea perfectly. Think about it. A menu isn't the meal, right? You can't eat the words on the page. A roadmap isn't the actual highway. It doesn't have traffic jams or potholes. And a financial model, no matter how slick, is never the real, messy, chaotic economy. We're talking about the gap between the picture and the real thing.
Okay, so you might be thinking, this is super obvious. Nobody thinks a piece of paper is a road. And you're right, but here's where it gets really interesting. While we don't make that mistake literally, we make it metaphorically all the time. And the reason why is hardwired into our brains.
Every single second, your senses are just getting flooded with about 11 million bits of information. 11 million. That's everything you see, hear, feel. It's a crazy, overwhelming tidal wave of raw data about the world.
But here's the kicker. Your conscious mind, the part of you that's actually paying attention right now, it can only handle about 50 bits per second. Yeah, not 50,000, just 50. That gap between reality, the territory, and what we can actually perceive is absolutely gigantic.
So what does your brain do? It really has no choice. To make any sense of that fire hose of information, it has to simplify. It has to filter almost everything out and build these little simplified models, these maps of the world, just so we can get around without going crazy.
And that, right there, is what a mental model is. It's one of these simplified pictures of reality that we use to navigate, predict what's going to happen, or make a decision. Most of the time, they're not complicated equations. They're just rules of thumb, analogies, or gut feelings.
So you can really think of all these mental models as a kind of toolkit for your brain. It's a whole collection of shortcuts and frameworks you're using all day long, whether you even realize it or not.
Now, these thinking tools generally fall into three big buckets. You've got your heuristics, which are just useful mental shortcuts. Then there are biases. These are the predictable mistakes we make. And finally, paradoxes, which are kind of like stress tests for our own logic. Let's talk about heuristics for a sec. They're basically those quick rules of thumb. You know, a classic one is the early bird gets the worm. It's a simple mental model that tells us, hey, acting early is probably a good move. And you know what? A lot of the time it is.
But there's always a but, right? Because there's another saying, the second mouse gets the cheese. This just shows the limit of any one model. A map that works great in one place can get you totally lost somewhere else. The key is knowing which map to use and when.
Now, the downside to these shortcuts is that they can lead to biases. And these aren't just random mistakes, they're predictable glitches in our thinking, like confirmation bias, where you only look for information that proves you're right, or the availability heuristic, which is why a scary shark attack story on the news makes us more afraid of sharks than of driving our car, which is statistically way more dangerous. It's our brain mistaking a vivid little map for the entire territory.
And this gets us to the real danger here. The problem isn't using mental maps. We absolutely have to. The danger is when we get trapped by just one of them, when we forget that our favorite map is just one of many ways to see the world.
The philosopher Abraham Kaplan had a perfect way of describing this. He called it the law of the instrument. It's this idea that if all you have is a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. If you only have one mental model, you try to solve every single problem with it.
You see this play out all the time. Think about the manager who always says, I'm just going to go with my gut. She's had a few successes with it, so now she thinks her intuition is foolproof, and she starts ignoring data because her gut feeling is the only hammer she wants to use.
Or how about the economist who's built their whole career on one single theory? Suddenly, every single thing that happens in the market, all the data, it all gets crammed into that one box, even when reality is screaming that it doesn't fit.
And of course, this is huge in politics. The passionate partisan who sees the entire world through one single ideology. Every complex issue gets boiled down to something simple that confirms their worldview. It's the ultimate, everything looks like a nail problem.
So, if being stuck with just one map is the problem, what's the solution? How do we become better navigators of this incredibly complex territory we call reality?
First, and this is absolutely critical, you have to give up the search for the perfect map.
There is no one true model that explains everything. Believing there is, well, that leads you straight back to the hammer and nail problem.
The real goal is to build a toolkit to collect a whole bunch of different mental models and, this is the important part, to get smart about knowing which situation calls for which tool. A great thinker doesn't have one giant hammer, they have a well-stocked toolbox.
And that's really why this idea matters so much. It's not supposed to make you feel lost or like you can never know anything for sure. It's actually a call for intellectual humility. It's a reminder to hold our own beliefs a little more loosely and to remember that our view of the world is always, always incomplete.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. What are your go-to maps? The ones you use to navigate your job, your relationships, your life, and, be honest, which of those have you maybe started to mistake for reality itself?